Hi, we're Ariel.
And Michelle, and we're
we're
the
the
Board
Board
Game
Game Tutors.
Tutors.
Today we're going to be doing Advanced Concepts Part 1 for the board game Summoner Wars, specifically the faction the Cave Filth. Let's go ahead and get started.
All right. So the Cave Filth are from the Alliances set for Summoner Wars.
They're the last army that we have not yet covered in our video series.
Mm-hmm.
And also, just for your information and purposes, one of the reasons we've delayed so much in covering the Cave Filth is the fact that we don't really like the faction very much. The theme behind it, demonic enslaved empire, is not very appealing to our tastes.
Right.
We don't like playing as demons in board games. But just wanted to let you know that is the overall theme of this faction. So one way that we figured out how to play the faction was we just like laughing at them and making fun of them and stuff.
Just basically not taking it too seriously and not getting too much into the theme.
Yeah, because obviously you could get too involved in the theme and act kind of weird. But anyway, so we just take the demons as laughable things. So let's go ahead and get started.
All right, so here's the starting setup, as we always have with any faction.
Mm-hmm.
Then when we flip it over, we'll see all of the event cards that are in this deck.
Mm-hmm.
There's a list like normal, and the turn phase summary, which shows what you do on your turn.
All right, put that aside.
Here we have a wall.
Just like usual. Nothing special about it. It looks like it's in a demonic place because of the red background.
Okay, and then this first card talks about the prison pile, which is something unique to this faction.
Okay, I'll read it for us. Some cards in this set refer to a prison pile. A player's prison pile will exist face up to the right of their discard pile. So this tells you where to put your prison pile. We like to use this card that says prison pile as our prison pile. So as you can see, whenever we set up a game for the Cave Filth, we take that prison pile card, we put them over here. It says put it right next to your discard, but anywhere to the side is fine. And we liked this card specifically because it says prison pile on top. So any cards that are added to your prison pile, we just put them on top of this card. And one other important fact, very important fact about the prison pile. Only common units from your army and from the enemy army, and also mutations from primarily your army, unless you're playing against the Filth, who also have mutations. Only commons and mutations can go into this prison pile. No other cards, walls, champions, etc. All of those do not go in the prison pile. So
Great.
If ever at any point you find an event card or any other card beside a common unit or a mutation in your prison pile, that was an illegal move, and that should not have happened. We'll go more into this later on.
All right. So then we have the Warden. He's the summoner for the Cave Filth. Mm-hmm. He has an attack value of 1, is a ranged fighter, and has 9 hit points, which is the most hit points you can have and the most we've seen.
Pretty massive.
So his special ability is called Ruthless Tyrant.
Do you want me to read that?
Sure.
Whenever a common unit is destroyed by an attack from a unit you control, instead of placing that unit in your magic pile, you may instead place it in your prison pile. Also, before your summon phase, you may choose one card in your prison pile and place it on top of your magic pile.
Okay, so basically, this applies more to how you play the faction overall than specifically to the Warden. So whenever you destroy a common unit, you have the option of putting it in your prison pile. And as we're going to see later, there are a number of different things you can do with your prison pile, many of them involving event cards and such. And so you have a choice whenever you destroy a common unit to either put it in your magic like normal or in your prison pile. And in case you put something in your prison pile and then change your mind later, this also says that before your summon phase, you can take one card from your prison pile and switch it to your magic pile. So you have some options, and that's one reason this deck can be a bit analysis paralysis prone, because you have a lot of choices, so you have a lot of things to consider doing.
So obviously analysis paralysis basically just means you have a lot of choices and you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So that's the short of it.
Yeah, so you might have to think a bit.
And also, one really important thing about Ruthless Tyrant, like I said, only common units and mutations can go in your prison pile. So here in the text of Ruthless Tyrant, it says whenever a common unit is destroyed by a unit you control.
Mm-hmm.
So that's important, obviously.
Yeah, and mutations are considered to be common units for the purposes of this card.
And so if you ever destroy a champion unit, a conjuration unit, those do not fall under Ruthless Tyrant. Okay.
Okay, so that's the summoner. Then the first common unit that we're going to talk about is the prisoner. There are 2 common units in this deck, unlike the usual 3. So prisoners have a summon cost of 0, an attack value of 1. They're melee fighters and have 2 hit points. And their special ability is called Unwilling. This is one of those abilities that's actually more of a negative ability.
A disability?
So for them, when summoning this unit, roll a die. On a result of 3 or less, place it in your prison pile. So thematically, for being unwilling, sometimes the prisoners basically refuse to go onto the board. They refuse to go into battle. And so you have to stick them in your prison pile, which, as we've said, there are some things you can do with your prison pile. So that's not a total loss, but they won't be able to attack on this turn like you had been hoping. So when you start the game, you have 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 3 of them on the board. So those ones you won't have to roll to see if they'll stay because they're already there. So that helps. And then I think there are 8 of these units overall, something like that.
Yeah, close to that, if not that.
Yeah, so close to half of them are already on the board when you start, and then the rest you'll have to see whether they're willing to work for you or not when you try to summon them.
Okay. All right, so those are prisoners.
Then the next common unit is called Taskmaster. He has a summon cost of 2, an attack value of 1, is a melee fighter, and has 3 hit points. And so the Taskmasters, their special ability works with the prisoners. So it says here, it's called Whip. Instead of moving with this Taskmaster during your movement phase, you may add 1 wound marker to a common unit you control that is adjacent to this Taskmaster. Move that unit up to 2 spaces, and, if that unit is a prisoner, add 1 to its attack value until the end of this turn. Whip cannot be used on another Taskmaster. So, as you can see, we have the prisoner adjacent to the Taskmaster.
So if we wanted to, this is in exchange for the Taskmaster moving during this turn.
So he wouldn't be moving.
Put 1 wound marker on them as per the card's instructions, and you can move this prisoner 2 spaces. 1, 2. And now, if there was a target there, obviously you would move close to a target using this move. And then, not close, but right next to them. And then he no longer has 1 die to roll, he rolls 2 dice.
Right. So the Taskmaster gave up his movement, caused the prisoner to move, and gave the prisoner an extra die to roll for its attack. And so this also allows you to, you still attack during your attack phase. Yeah. But it just gets the prisoner ready. And that also means he could end up, he could move again, right? Because this is in place of the Taskmaster's movement. So it helps you. It helps you maybe get closer to where you need to be and also have a stronger attack.
So as you can see, if you back up a little bit in terms of the shot, there are 3 cards, 3 units on the board currently. So normally during a turn, you would have 3 normal movement. If you use the Taskmaster's special ability, that means you would only have 2 more movement left.
Right.
So you couldn't move him anymore. But since this prisoner was moved with the whip motion, special ability, he could move again. 1, 2. So that would be your second movement gone. And then you could also move the Warden if you wanted to. Obviously, this isn't a normal situation, but just an example of what might happen.
Right. And so as we already mentioned, the prisoner was injured in order for this to happen. So it's going to be that much easier for your opponent to kill him now.
And so basically you're kind of sacrificing your prisoner to a certain extent, but he can cover 4 spaces of movement during a turn where he does the Taskmaster's whip ability.
Right.
So that is that.
Okay.
Right, let me move that out of the way. 1 second.
Okay, so then we have some champions because, as we said, there were just 2 common units normally in this deck. Okay, so the first champion is named Hester. He has a summon cost of 4, an attack value of 0, and he's a melee fighter and has 6 hit points. So, of course, it doesn't make much sense to say he has an attack value of 0 because then what is he doing on the board? But that's where his special ability comes in. So it's called Prison Lord, and it simply says add 1 to Hester's attack value for every 2 cards in your prison pile. So the strength of his attack relies directly on the prisoners, so on the cards that you have in your prison pile.
So obviously, you have common units called prisoners. That's not the only kind of person that can be in the prison, obviously. Any common unit from your side, so that could be a taskmaster, that could be a prisoner, and also any mutations on your side can also go in the prison, and also any enemy common units you destroy can also go into your prison. So
Right.
obviously, those all count. They have to be a common or a mutation and in your prison pile.
So his attack value can go up indefinitely. It's simply according to the number of cards that you have in your prison pile. So that can be really powerful if you have quite a few. Like if you have 6 in your prison pile, then he rolls 3 dice, and so on.
So yeah, that's Hester. He's pretty straightforward.
Then we have the Soul Eater, who you might recognize if you've played the Cave Goblins. He looks very similar to the Eater. So he has a summon cost of 6, an attack value of 3, is a melee fighter, and has 8 hit points. So that's a lot.
Not quite as many as the Warden.
Yeah, but almost. So his special ability is called Feed It Souls.
He looks awfully strange as well.
Yes, and Feed It Souls sounds kind of goofy, but anyway.
Also, I like to make fun of the fact that the normal Eater looks more appealing than the Soul Eater does.
Yeah.
And that's not a big compliment.
Okay, so at the end of your attack phase, this is what his special ability says. At the end of your attack phase, destroy 1 common unit adjacent to the Soul Eater. If you cannot, you must discard 1 card from your prison pile or discard the Soul Eater. So similar to the Eater, he basically has to get fed at the end of every attack phase that you have. So at the end of your attack phase. So either if the way that would work out best for you is if he's adjacent to an enemy common unit, then you don't even have to attack it. He just destroys that common unit. He supposedly eats it at the end of the attack phase.
And the important thing about that is since he eats it, it is destroyed. It goes to your magic.
Right. Because, yeah, you destroyed it, and the term destroyed means it goes to your magic.
Or, because of the Warden's special ability, it says whenever a common unit is destroyed by an attack from the unit. So, I'm not sure if that would count.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is not an attack. It's at the end of your attack phase.
Right.
So yeah, so that's important to note. That common unit does have to just go to your magic. It doesn't get to go to your prison pile, even if you would prefer that.
It's because the Soul Eater ate it, and the Warden didn't eat it.
So yeah, I can't go to the prison, I guess. It's actually eaten.
So yeah.
So, and then the way that he's different from the Eater is that if you can't feed him a common unit because there isn't one adjacent to him, then you can discard a card from your prison pile. So move a card from your prison pile to your discard pile, and then that would also save him from getting discarded. And yeah, if you can't do that, and these are not optional, so he has to destroy a common unit adjacent to him, but if you can't do that, then you have to get rid of someone from your prison pile if you're able to. And if you can't do either of those, then you have to just put him in your discard and he's done.
Yeah. So obviously, just the same way that Hester benefits from having plenty of people in the prison, the Soul Eater will stay alive longer, especially if your opponent decides to deny you commons and they specifically don't summon commons next to the Soul Eater.
Right.
Then you still have the backup of using your prison pile to keep him alive for at least one more turn. So both with Hester and the Soul Eater, having a sufficient amount of prisoners in your prison pile, and not just people named prisoners, that will keep him alive, will keep Hester fighting and having possibly as many dice as the Soul Eater does.
Right. Then finally we have Scabby Kiss. He has a summon cost of 4, an attack value of 3, is a melee fighter, and has 7 hit points, so he's another rather powerful one in terms of life. His special ability is called Revolt. Whenever Scabby Kiss receives 1 or more wound markers from an attack or an opponent's card effect, discard a card from your prison pile. If you cannot, add an additional wound marker to Scabby Kiss. So we haven't been able to exactly figure out thematically what this is supposed to mean, but that's not really important.
That's not really logical. Basically, what it means is if Scabby Kiss gets hurt and you don't have anyone in your prison pile whenever he gets hurt to go into the discard pile, he gets another hit.
Yeah. So he gets wounded faster because of this, but he does have 7 hit points.
And obviously, he's a summon cost 4, rolls 3 dice. Can't really beat that combo.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah. Obviously, the Soul Eater has more weight behind him. He has more life. Not that much, though. And yeah, Scabby Kiss is really cheap. So, definitely a decent possibility for you to use during a match.
Right. Okay, so now we're going on to the event cards. They all have kind of obnoxious titles, but we'll just skim over that.
Yeah.
So this one's called Unholy Sacrifice.
You have 1 copy of this.
Place up to 3 cards from your prison pile into your discard pile. For each card placed into your discard pile in this way, choose a common or champion unit on the battlefield. The same unit cannot be chosen twice. Place 1 wound marker on each chosen unit. So this has a lot of text, but it's pretty straightforward. You're going to transfer cards from your prison pile to your discard pile, basically getting rid of them. You can do up to 3. And for each of them, you're going to wound a common or a champion that's on the battlefield, presumably your opponents. I don't know why you'd do that with your own. It doesn't specify, but
obviously this is a demonic army, so they might attack themselves, but in general, it doesn't normally help your cause to attack your own people.
Right. So yeah, you just get rid of prisoners, and you're able to place wounds through that somehow.
Yeah, basically, so you can spend 1, 2, or 3 cards, because that's up to 3. And depending on how many cards you discard, you can place 1 wound on, most likely, enemy units. And you can't stack those. So you can't give the same champion 3 wounds. You have to give 1 wound to that champion, 1 wound to someone else, and 1 wound to another person. And obviously, you could just use this to do it twice, do it once, whatever you want to do.
Yep.
So that's that card. And as you can see, a nice big picture of the weird-looking Warden.
Yes. We don't know if he doesn't really look human. We're not really sure what he is.
He's strange. Anyway.
Okay, then we have Overwork. Choose a common unit you control. You may immediately move up to 2 spaces and attack with that unit, if able. Add 1 to the chosen unit's attack value during that attack. After resolving the attack, or if no attack is made, place the chosen unit into your prison pile, and any cards that were under the chosen unit into your discard pile. So this lets you use one of your commons, like extra. It basically lets you move and attack with them during the event phase, but then you have to get rid of them right away. You put them into your prison pile.
Yes. So it basically gives you an attack during your event phase. Yeah, you can move it and also attack. So it's similar to what the Taskmaster does in terms of whipping.
Right.
But it's different because the attack happens during the event phase.
Right.
And so, obviously, another reason to play this card would be you need 1 more common unit into your prison pile. You can use Overwork to get them directly into your prison pile during your event phase.
Right. And then the main reason it mentions if there are any cards that were under the chosen unit is that when we talk about mutations, which we're going to get to in our next video, those will have at least 1 card under them, sometimes more. So if it was a mutation that you did this with, then the cards that were under it would get discarded while the mutation card was put into your prison pile.
So yeah, obviously, like, you overworked the mutation, which we will talk about in a future video, what mutations are exactly. But yeah, so that's Overwork for you.
Okay,
next card. Oops.
This one is Living Shield.
Okay.
All Cave Filth units you control gain the following ability until the beginning of your next turn. Living Shield. So this will apply to all of your units that are on the board. Once per turn, whenever 1 or more wound markers would be placed on this card, you may discard 1 card from your prison pile to ignore those wounds. So you basically use a prisoner to block you somehow, and then they kind of take the wounds for you. So you put them in the discard, and your unit that you put it in front of or whatever doesn't get any wounds. But you can only do this once for each unit. So if your opponent attacks one of your units twice, then for the first attack, they could do Living Shield and discard someone that's in their prison pile. But then on the second attack, they wouldn't be able to do that. Or they might wait till the second attack.
Yeah, it's obviously tactical, because if your opponent attacks you with a common unit that only rolls 1 die, but then they're going to attack you also with a champion unit that rolls 3 dice, obviously you're going to try and block the champion, not the common unit, because there's more danger coming from that guy. So obviously Living Shield only works once with each unit. So that is Living Shield.
Okay. Then this one is called Subjugation. Not very much text on this card. Choose up to 3 common units in your discard pile and place them on top of your prison pile. So this lets you move cards that you have already used or that you used.
Yeah.
Cards that you've put in your discard pile for whatever reason. If they're common units, then 3 of them can move into your prison pile, which means you're going to be able to use them for all the things that we've discussed you can do with prisoners.
Primarily your champions, but also for other event cards and whatnot. And also, another really important fact of this Subjugation card, you have 2 copies of this in your deck. Whenever you get them, I would not build this for Magic. It is a very, very important card to help you build up your prison pile, to make your champion stronger. And also, even though it says common units, this also means you can put mutations into your prison pile.
Right, they count as common units for pretty much all purposes.
And we'll go over that more in the video about mutations. But so you can grab any mutations that you so like let's say you got your mutations, you put them into your magic pile right here. You burn them for magic to summon other units onto the board. Now they're in your discard pile. You can grab those because it says you can choose up to 3 common units. Right. So you can choose 1 mutation and 2 commons, or all 3 mutations, depending upon what you've done with them.
Right, and you can look through your discard for the ones you want.
Yeah, you search through your discard, you pick the commons, aka also, not aka, but also mutations. You choose however many mutations you want and commons you want. You put 3 of them in your prison pile. So obviously, try not to do this if you only have 2 commons, or 1 common and 1 mutation in your discard pile. You want to make full use of this card to pack your prison pile full.
Okay, so that was Subjugation.
So yeah, I would recommend using both of your Subjugation cards to get the maximum amount out of your discard.
Then we have Enlist.
This is the main reason why I say that with the Subjugation card.
Okay. Choose a unit in your prison pile. Place the chosen unit on an unoccupied space adjacent to your summoner. You control the chosen unit. If the chosen unit is a mutation, you must also choose a common unit in your discard pile and immediately place it under that mutation. So basically, this is going to let you, for free, get a unit from your prison pile. And you might especially want to do this with mutations because they can be fairly expensive. So you'll be able to take this unit from your prison pile and put it directly on the board. You just put it next to your summoner, so it's not like the usual thing of summoning next to a wall. It goes directly next to your summoner.
And so, obviously, like Michelle said, you won't, most likely, as long as you can orchestrate this happening, you want to do this to a mutation card. Because, like Michelle said, they're expensive. Like, they cost 3 magic, or they cost 4 magic. So, if they're expensive, this is one way to get mutations on the board for essentially free. You just play the Enlist card, you put that in your discard, and now you can take that mutation out of your prison pile over here. Obviously, it's kind of funny to keep talking about mutations and not show you the mutations, but this is the groundwork to help you understand how the mutations work.
Right.
So, if you have a mutation in your prison pile, you can take it out of your prison pile, grab a common unit that is in your discard pile, put that common unit next to your summoner, put that mutation on top of that common unit. And this works for your common units and for enemy common units.
Right.
So that's how Enlist works. And yeah, it's basically a free summon. If you're familiar at all with, let's see, I can't remember the name.
The Deep Dwarves.
The Deep Dwarves. There's a particular card called Illusionary Warrior, where you can take a card out of, I believe it's your magic. I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's from your magic, yeah.
And basically, you can use one of your strong enemy commons and summon them to your side of the army, and to your army side, and basically attack your enemy with it, which is always fun in terms of turning the tide against them.
Right. Yeah, so this card reminds us of that.
So yeah, Enlist is a great way to get free mutations onto the board. All right, so those were all the cards that we covered in our first video for the Warden and the Cave Filth. If you enjoyed the content of this video, or you like regular updates from us, the Board Game Tutors, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Board Game Tutors on YouTube. Or please check us out on BoardGameGeek.com, and you can see all the content that we have listed there for all the different types of games that we've covered.
Our username there is the Board Game Tutors, one word.
And yeah, we hope you enjoyed the content of this video. We appreciate all your comments, likes, questions, concerns, clarifications. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you next time.
All right, thanks so much for watching. See you in the next video.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.